What is going on? Welcome back to Financial Journey. So today I want to give you an overview of what is happening to SoFi, go over some of the data points, what shorts are doing, and from here, where things might be going. Before I get into any of that, make sure you guys hit that thumbs up and subscribe. I always greatly appreciate that. And with that, let's get right to it. So currently it is down 2.17%. We are actually just heading into a power hour right now. And based on the intraday, it is starting to break down, unfortunately. A little bit lower for volume. So 13.1 million shares being traded, 20.2 is the average. And this is something I've been bringing up over the last several videos. It's just clearly a very notable step back coming from institutions, because today there's only been roughly about 2 transactions over $100,000 that did occur on the secondary market. And even the day before, so yesterday, just very much reduced. Similarly, even on the dark pool. So dark pool normally is extremely red hot. And of course, a lot of that is done because of shorting and other acts like that. But today has just been very quiet. So I'll give you an overview of what shorts are doing in a second, but a lot of volatility today because of good old CPI coming out. And based on CPI itself, it did come a little bit higher on a year over year. The month over month did come in line with the forecast. And if we look at the true data, because it's one thing just looking at this data and just trying to interpret that, but when you are looking at the true data right here, it clearly goes to show that the energy component is significantly higher. So energy did go up roughly about 10.5%. So in theory, though, it's not that bad. Of course, it did go up higher. So it does show that inflation is still very much there. And when it comes down to that, that does give Powell a lot of justification to raise the rates during the next meeting on September the 20th. But the fact is that when you are looking at the CPI and it does go up, yeah, it's largely because of energy. And this is why a lot of people look at the core CPI, because that doesn't actually have a lot of the food basket items as well as energy. So this one might be a little bit better to look at. And this is what Powell and the Feds do generally look at, is core CPI. But let me know your thoughts on all of that in the comments below. As of news, there was something that did come out yesterday, and it's more so just for, I guess, security for SoFi. So it does look like they did partner with, or at least hire the services for 𝗪𝗧𝗪𝗧𝗪. So I think that's a fairly good thing. Not really much to talk on in my opinion, but outside of this, no recent SEC filings, nothing like that at all. So let me know your thoughts on all of this in the comments below. As far as some other additional data points, options. So options, despite it pulling back a little bit today, is very optimistic. So $1.88 million in calls being purchased versus 667,000 in puts. So based on this information, clearly people are anticipating for it to trend up. And if you are optimistic, looking as far as this, the grid view, it is still, despite it pulling back, anticipated to be between the 9 to 950 range. But as I've said in the past, and I'll always say, this is just merely a sentiment. It does not move the stock price. So let me know your thoughts. But like I've signaled as well, just looking as far as on a I guess zoomed out view, it has been just trading between the 50 and 100 day moving average. It clearly has been trying to break out, like I have said during my last couple of videos. So today's consolidating, and nothing wrong with that. When you do fail to get over a very strong resistance, you consolidate, try again, obviously in the next couple days. So I do feel that either tomorrow or potentially on Friday, that is where it will try again to break above that 50-day moving average. And based on the fib levels, and actually just to go back to it on a second, or for a second, that's clearly what the options is pointing to. The fact that they do believe that it is going to break above that 50-day moving average. But with it being at $8.81, it is currently between this S1 and the pivot. So $7.99 is a very strong support, and vice versa, $9.22 is a very strong resistance. So you definitely do have that 50-day moving average and also that pivot point. So 922 back to back kind of heavy resistances. So you need SoFi to really hit a good home run and have good justification for it to trend higher to get it above those resistance points. So let me know your thoughts on that in the comments below. As far as looking at the momentum indicator, shows number of retail investors are getting out today. Stochastic is currently at 78, so kind of borderline overbought a little bit, but there is a nice bullish sentiment starting to form. So black line above the red. So once again, all I'm doing is listing the data points. You guys interpret that how you see fit, because I am not a financial advisor. But when it comes to it, like I mentioned, I'll give you a overview of what shorts are doing. So short score is currently 56. Utilization is 24.83%. And looking right here, as far as what shorts are doing, they are returning 9,000 shares. So very, very even divided. 9,000 is absolutely nothing. So 12.91% of the free float is being shorted. 104.06 million shares in total are being shorted. Cost to borrow average is 1.41%. So very, very flat. So of course, even just looking at these two charts, the borrowed shares and returned shares, it's not that popular. Similar to what I even mentioned at the very beginning, just the number of transactions on the dark pools as well is just very, very low. So that's something that you need to consider. But when it comes down to it, right here, so data-driven investing, he is on Twitter, very good source of information for SoFi. But he did kind of summarize the recent fireside chat done by Anthony. And one thing that really stood out to me when I was listening, and he kind of summarized it very good here, but the fact that SoFi is stealing market share from a lot of the legacy banks, even though they might be so big that they might not notice essentially, but based on our numbers, it clearly does indicate that we are stealing a lot of the customers and growing at a faster rate than them. So especially if this does continue quarter over quarter, like this is going to be a lot of good things for SoFi. So it's not going to be a overnight success. As I've indicated, it's going to take a long time because to be a disruptive company in this sector is just not an easy task. And I think analysts have started to realize that. So when you are looking at analyst ratings, initially they all gave $5, $6 targets. Now look at them. They're giving 15, 12, 10, 16. So a lot of them are a lot more optimistic when it comes down to SoFi. And especially if it does continue on the same path, it is just going to just domino effect. It's just going to get more and more obviously larger price targets done by analysts and many other things. So the last one being JP Morgan, that was 22 days ago by Reginald Smith, who does have a 45% success rating. So let me know your thoughts on that. And when it comes down to SoFi stealing market share, clearly a lot of people do see a lot of upside as potential, because when I bring up options, that's a fairly good sentiment for where people feel that it might be going. But based on all of the Q2 information right here, it does show that all hedge funds did purchase $15.35 million in calls. That is up 77.46% from the quarter prior. And based on all 13 F filers, there was $56.99 million call options that was purchased, which similarly is up 78.43%. So in reality, a lot of good things are coming for SoFi. You just have to practice patience. And as well, going back onto the technicals, when it is simply, or any stock does have a lot of volatility and is trading within a range, that is when you should really consider looking at options activity and playing them, whether you are just selling puts or technically just doing covered calls or buying calls. Options can be extremely profitable, and especially more so, like I mentioned, for a stock that is very volatile and as well that is trading within a set range. So let me know your thoughts on all of that in the comments below, and give yourself a shout out if you have been buying, selling, holding, what you have been doing with SoFi in the comments below. If it does dip back down to kind of this level, I'm definitely going to be adding more if it gets down to the low 8s, but you never know. It could just easily break out above that in the next couple days and trend higher. So it's all just a waiting game in reality. Let me know your thoughts. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up. If you do like my channel as well and want to support the growth, take a look at my memberships, link in the description below and also the comments. But with all that said, appreciate you all watching, and let's all make a ton of money on SoFi.